quiet island, a day that changed Norway. It was a bright summer day on July 22, 2011, a day like any other on the peaceful island of Utøya. Nestled in the serene waters of Tyrifjorden, Norway, Utøya was known for its beauty and tranquility. This small island, covered in lush green trees and surrounded by clear blue waters, had become a gathering place for the Workers' Youth League, AUF, the youth wing of Norway's Labour Party. Each summer, hundreds of young activists, filled with idealism and the hope of building a better future, gathered for the AUF's annual summer camp. It was a place where dreams were shared and bonds of friendship formed, far removed from the troubles of the outside world. But on this fateful day, those dreams were shattered. The day began like any other. Over 500 young people, most in their teens, enjoyed the warm sun, listening to speeches, attending workshops, and engaging in political discussions. The atmosphere was one of excitement and energy, as it always was when youth came together to learn and change the world. Laughter echoed across the island, a stark contrast to the storm that was about to come. Earlier that day, in the bustling capital of Oslo, a devastating explosion ripped through the city. A car bomb exploded in the government district, destroying buildings and killing 8 people. The explosion sent shockwaves throughout Norway. News of the attack quickly spread to Utøya, where the campers, though worried, believed they were safe. After all, the island had always been a refuge, a sanctuary where the chaos of the world felt far away. But as the camp leaders gathered to discuss the news from Oslo, a man arrived on the island. Dressed in a police uniform, he looked like a figure of authority, someone sent to protect the campers in light of the earlier attack. His name was Anders Behring Breivik, but no one knew that yet. He claimed to be there for their safety, to ensure that everyone remained calm after the Oslo bombing. His calm demeanor and professional appearance masked the horrific intentions behind his visit. As Breivik walked through the camp, no one suspected the darkness that lay beneath his uniform. His presence was reassuring at first, a sign that the authorities were doing their best to keep them safe. But then, without warning, the unimaginable happened. Breivik pulled out a weapon and began to fire. The sound of gunshots shattered the peaceful atmosphere of the island. Panic spread like wildfire. Some thought it was a drill, while others screamed in confusion and disbelief. It took only moments for everyone to realize that this was real. Breivik methodically moved through the camp, targeting young people, chasing them through the forested paths, onto the shores, and even into the water as they tried to escape. For over an hour, Breivik continued his rampage. The island, once a place of laughter and hope, was now filled with terror. Those who couldn't flee fast enough tried to hide, behind trees, under rocks, anywhere that offered even the smallest chance of survival. Many of them had nowhere to go. The island, small and isolated, provided few options for escape. Some swam desperately into the cold waters of the fjord, hoping to reach safety on the other side. Boats from the mainland rushed to help, but the distance was vast, and the situation grew more desperate with each passing second. Those hiding could hear the footsteps, the clicking of Breivik's gun as he reloaded. Time felt frozen. Each minute stretched into an eternity as young lives hung in the balance. Friends clung to each other, whispering final words, praying they wouldn't be found. The silence between shots was deafening. As the sun began to lower in the sky, police and rescue boats finally arrived. Breivik, remarkably calm, surrendered without a fight. By then, the damage was done. 69 people were dead, most of them teenagers. The youngest victim was just 14 years old. Hundreds more were injured, and all were left with emotional scars that would last a lifetime. Back on the mainland, families anxiously awaited news. Some received the phone call they had been dreading. Others waited in agonizing silence, not knowing whether their loved ones were among the survivors. The scale of the attack was incomprehensible, and for a country that prided itself on peace and security, it felt like the darkest of nightmares. In the days that followed, Norway was left to grapple with its grief. Memorials were held across the country, honoring the lives lost. The survivors, many of them still teenagers, were left to rebuild their lives, haunted by memories of that day. In their hearts, Utøya was no longer the idyllic island of their youth. It had become a place of pain and loss. As the nation mourned, it also searched for answers. Why had this happened? Who was Anders Behring Breivik, and what drove him to commit such a heinous crime? Breivik, a far-right extremist, had meticulously planned the attack for years. His motivation was rooted in a twisted ideology, a hatred of multiculturalism and the Labour Party, which he blamed for allowing immigrants into Norway. His goal was to strike at the heart of the next generation of political leaders, to destroy the future of a more inclusive Norway. Breivik was arrested and later stood trial. His lack of remorse shocked the world as he coldly detailed his plans and beliefs. In 2012, he was sentenced to 21 years in prison, the maximum sentence in Norway, with the possibility of extensions that could keep him behind bars for life. But for the survivors and the families of those who perished, no sentence could bring back what was lost. The pain of that day would linger, etched into their hearts forever. Yet, in the face of such horror, there was also resilience. Many of the survivors chose to honor their fallen friends by continuing the work they had started on Utøya, advocating for tolerance, democracy, and the very values Breivik had sought to destroy. Today, Utøya stands not only as a reminder of the tragedy, but also as a symbol of hope. The island has been rebuilt, and once again, it hosts the AUF summer camp. The survivors return, stronger and more determined than ever, carrying forward the ideals of peace, equality, and unity. Though the scars will never fully heal, the spirit of those who were lost lives on in the hearts of those who continue the fight for a better future. The message from that day is clear: love and hope will always triumph over hate.